coming weeks, because it's not the matter that, again, since you are, as I said, you are like all of students are adults and they should be responsible for themselves. But again, they should be then responsible for everything for themselves. They should not be coming to the professor and asking some stupid questions that the professor has already told them or maybe informed them. Maybe it's there on their. Kirandeep, good evening. Ashdeep, good evening. I'm sorry, I was just having a little informal conversation with Pratham because because of that. Okay, now another question, maybe with you guys as well. How many of you had a chance to look at the part one where I have discussed all these kind of things? Can you respond to the chat window, everyone? That who out of you has seen the part one? I have just put that announcement today in your group as well. That please look at the part one. And okay, Kirandeep, that's wonderful. And those who have looked at, so Tushar has done that. Tushar, I was expecting you, or Steve, you have done. So if you have not seen this lecture, and I'm not okay, Pratham, thank you. I'm not asking anyone else. If you have not seen this lecture, like the recording of this lecture, you will never be able to understand what's going on. Manjeet, yes, you may be right. But again, Manjeet, you will not be able to make sense of what I'll be telling to you today. But anyhow, it's I time and again I'm saying that it's one way or other, it was my responsibility to just make you understand, but it has to be. And I just left one thing towards the end of the lecture, and I said, students, just go and find out from the lecture 3, because this was something that I have discussed already. Anyhow, so we are starting our today's session, and with this new file I'll create today, and I will call this file as, for example, June 3, because with today's date, and we have to start something new here, something which is very, very important. And in general terms, I would like to say that we are starting to talking about object-oriented JavaScript in general. And again, if you are looking at the recording or if you are attending this class, of course, you are really going to enjoy that. We will be talking about object-oriented programming, but my discussion will be focused or based on the discussions that we have done last week. How to create this array of the objects. What is this object that we have created? So things like that. We'll be just talking about all these kind of things, and we will see that, okay, what are the different ways of creating objects in JavaScript. We have seen these objects in JavaScript. We have talked about these objects in JavaScript. We see that, okay, an object is something that is basically compounded in a curly brackets. It has a key value mapping. It has a key value pairs, and this key value pairs have, like, there's a key, there's a value. So these are properties. These are called the properties of an object. So today we'll talk about how we can just use them in JavaScript as pure object-oriented object-oriented language or object-oriented something. You know what I mean? So today, what I'll be doing is that I would be just, as I said, building upon the concepts that we have learned, and I would tell you what is a constructor. We are talking about object-oriented JavaScript. We'll talk about today about something called a constructor function, and you will definitely gonna like it. And then we'll talk about prototypal inheritance, which is again a bit of advanced sort of topic, and it's a topic that if you do not focus on this one, you might not be able to understand that correctly. But anyhow, I'll just try to make you understand that how we would go and how we would just create something. Okay, so let's talk about, because I'm just as I said, I'll be making my my discussion on the basis of. So you remember, if you have seen our first part, that we can create a user object like this equal to curly. I'm talking about a single object. I'm not talking about an array right now. So I say that a first property is first name, and I'm just making a very generic user. Then comes comma, and then comes last name, and I will say last. So again, it's a very generic object. And let's say I say age, and I say anything, like I'm just giving a random values. And then I say is logged in. If you remember, I have just defined, because we are talking about a user. So if is logged in is false, for the time being, user is not logged in. And if you have seen that discussion, I've told you that these users can contain multiple other types as well. These can contain even arrays. So for example, I say hobbies. There is a feature of hobbies, and hobbies I want to place them inverted in a array form. So for example, I say reading, sports, etc., etc., etc. So I just play one more maybe, and so anything, right? So it can be, the property can be an array by itself. A property can be an object itself. Interestingly. So if I say, for example, preferences of this user will be preferences or preference, for example, let's call it pref only. The preferences for user are another object inside that one. Are you making sense of it? And I'll just remind you. So for example, he likes red color. For example, we are just saying preferences or something like that. So he likes red color, and he likes, for example, we are talking about a car model maybe, or model. So he likes, for example, a Volvo model, something like that. So we have created an object inside that one. And then we can have a normal. So I'll say, for example, level of this user is, for example, 3, whatever. Now see here. And I would like you to just, be like, follow me and try to understand the concept. Then we'll talk about. So this is something that we have discussed, like in our first part in a very detail. And I've just changed some things over here so that now you are looking at the recording. As those who are looking at the recording right now, they will just know that, okay, that's how we are going. So I have made a very generic user, and I say that, okay, I have created a user, and a user can contain multiple data types. User can contain another an array inside that one. A user can contain an object by itself. And if you remember, I have placed some functions as well. So I say, if there is a login function, I can just place a login function inside that one, and that will become login function. So which will this dot logged in will be equal to true. It will just make it true. I can make a logout function, and I say logout will be a function that would do what? That would just do this is logged in equal to false, right? So logout should be a function. Okay, why it's giving? Because I have not given a comma. Sorry, comma over there. So now you see that I can have some functions. And again, it is just a review right now. Still, it's a review. When I want to access anything out of this object, how would I access that? Do you guys remember that? If I want to print, for example, if I ask a question, if I want to print his age, how would I print the age? Console.log. How would I print the age? User.age. Remember, everyone? And this user.age will give me the age of the user. Node June 3.js. Okay, color red. Red should be in inverted commas, right? Because it's a string, so string should be in inverted commas by default. Okay. So see here, 20. It's giving me the age. If I want to read a hobby, for example, is all hobbies from here. What I'll do, I'll say, okay, user.hobbies. It will bring an array for me. You see, all array will come. If I want second hobby from this one, you know that hobbies is an array, and I can go to any index of an hobby. You know what I mean? I just want one hobby out of it. So it will just come up with a sports. Tushar, is that making sense to you? Is everyone is making sense of it? So again, if I want to read something of the preference, like preference and dot, what I'll say, preference dot color, for example. Now what will happen? You see that now it will say, okay, red color, because I am talking about preference dot color. So user has an object preference has a field color. Or if I just say user dot pref, I'll get the complete object output. You see color red and model one. You know what I mean? So actually, this is the way to access that one, and this is the way to create functions. And if I want to call some function, if I want to if I call this function over here, I say user dot login. I just call this login function. And now if I print the user object, and again, those who have looked at the lecture, I'm just repeating a few things over here. If I print the user object first and then afterwards, you will see the difference. So you see that the first time object is created is logged in is false. but then I call a function login, and then it changes the logged in position is equal to true. You remember logged in function will change its true. Is everyone making sense of it? So now object has been printed twice, and it shows me, okay, first time the user had logged in false, and now user has logged in true. Now this is one way. Another object, another user. How would I do that? Of course, I'll come over here, and for example, I'll say, okay, let user2 equal to, and now I'll have to do what? I'll have to just, all the way copy all this. You know what I mean? I'll just copy this all, and I'll come over here and paste that. Okay, now another object has been created like that. So I need to create those so many things. Now we can define objects like this, but there must be a generic way of producing the objects. So now listen about that one. I don't want to keep it over here because this is something which is more related to our previous. So I'll just come over here and I'll paste it over here, for the reason that I don't want to keep it in June 3. Now there is a way that can be used to automatically define users rather than defining users every. So if I had 10 users, I'll have to write virtually manually the laborious work. I'll have to write every user's code over here. Rather, we have got something in JavaScript that is called constructor. First of all, we are discussing constructor. That we can create dynamic objects. Dynamic object means, I'll just let you know, dynamic objects. We can create dynamic objects by using the constructors. Right? Now, let's first of all create a constructor. I am creating a constructor. Constructor is basically, what is a constructor? First of all, constructor is a function or method. Okay, by the way, I know that you are studying OOPS as well, object-oriented programming. Is that right, Arshdeep and Tushar? You are studying the object-oriented programming also? Object-oriented programming course right now? Yes. So, Kirandeep, have you gone through constructors over there till now in classes? What is constructor? That's very good. Excellent. Yes, in this week you have studied about. Okay, anyhow, I'll talk about the constructor. It's a bit okay. Only Kirandeep is taking those classes, or anyone else is also studying those classes? Looks like only Kirandeep. So Kirandeep, you are exclusively taking that course of object-oriented programming. Looks like rest everyone is not allowed to take that course. Is that true? So, Kirandeep, yes, I'm just joking. I don't know if Pratham you are taking. Okay, at least someone is woke up. Anyhow, so let's talk about a constructor. Constructor is a function. It's a special function. But anyhow, how to create constructor is a special function that initializes an object. Now see here, what does that mean? How to create constructor function in JavaScript. Now I'm creating a constructor function. First of all, function keyword. We are familiar with function keyword. The constructor function should always start with a capital letter. How would you recognize a function as it's a constructor or not? You will have capital name starting. Is that making sense to everyone? Remember, whenever a function is starting with a capital letter, you would say that this is a constructor function. Make sense, everyone? So we are saying, for example, I'm creating a constructor function user, and I would say that, okay, every user, when it will be created, it will have a first name, and it would have a last name. So it will accept 2 parameters. You know what I mean? It will accept 2 parameters. Now, when it accepts 2 parameters, what it does, listen about that. It will be creating the object. So it will create some fields for its objects and save the names that we have passed to this one. And how would it do that? I hope you know that this keyword, but I will just explain that more. This dot first name is equal to first name. This dot last name equal to last name. Now, can I get a feedback? How many of you understand what this is doing? What this constructor function will do? Kirandeep, thank you. Kirandeep says understood. I'll just complete that one, but I just want to know a few things in the beginning. Okay, Manjeet says me too. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now listen about that. This is and how to create the object of this function. I'll just let you know how to create the object out of a constructor function. That is another very interesting story. I would just come over here and I say let user1 is equal to new user. Now I can pass a value. I can say Alan and Smith. Alan Smith. Now, are you guys getting that? Okay, I've created a new user. I passed Alan and Smith. Alan and Smith becomes the values of first name and last name. And these first name and last name, constructor does what? It creates a field for itself and sets up this first name equal to this dot first name. So this dot first name means the object which is created, like the user1 object. User1 will have first name as Alan and the last name as Smith. Are you guys getting that? Can I have a quick feedback from some more? Okay, that's wonderful. Now, so it's a way. And if I want to create another object, I'll say user2 equal to new user, and I want to create for Bob Williams, for example. So I've created two objects. Now, if I want to print first object, I'll say console.log and I'll say user1. Just show me what has been created. And I hope you know what is created. User2, let's print both of the objects. Let's see, is this object being created by the constructor or not? Okay. Do you see that now two objects are created? And both of the objects are, they are type of what? User. They have been constructed from the user constructor. Does that make sense? And this dot first name actually created a field inside that one and stored the Alan, which was coming as a first name over there. Now, is everyone good? Because I'm about to move forward. Now, this will only accept the first name and last name, but I want it to have some other fields as well. For example, I'm just trying to imitate the same that I talked about. So I say, okay, I will just keep the age always 20. Is that making sense? Every object that will be created will have the age of 20, regardless of which object we are creating. So I'm just setting it up, not taking the value input from the user, as a parameter from the user. So I say this dot logged in, create a variable logged in and make it equal to false, right? So create a, maybe an object, this dot preference is equal to, and you just set color, and you say red, for example, the same thing that we have done before, and model Volvo. Now I would ask you questions with you guys later on. This dot and create one more thing. For example, I want to create this dot hobbies equal to, and again, A hobbies, B and C, something like that. So hobbies, this dot hobbies is equal to this one. Okay, am I back with everyone? Looks like my internet got disconnected. Can you just put a chat message that am I back with everyone? Okay. So where were like what I was discussing when I was like connection got problem. My screen would not be shared, but I think now I'll share my screen. Yes. So what was the last thing that I did, by the way? Can someone tell me? Yeah. Can someone tell me what was the last thing that I said? For example, from this code, you wrote B. Oh, okay. Okay. So Pratham, I stopped at this B, right? Yeah, like this B the array. Okay. Now, thank you very much. Now, yes. So this dot hobbies is equal to ABC. This dot level is equal to 3, and I'm defining the function. This dot login is equal to function. So what this function will do, it will take the logged in variable and again make it true. And what else? I want another function. This dot logout equal to function. And what this function will do, it will take this dot logged in again and make it false. You know what I mean? So I have created this object. Now, do you know that whenever I will create a new object, so user will create a new object and user will pass only first name and last name, and rest of the properties will be settled from this set of the property. Do you understand that? Now, if I run this program again, you see that now I have two objects being created. The first object is first name Alan Smith, age 20, false. So you see that other than Alan and Smith, Bob and Williams, everything rest is same as per my given constructor function. Does that make sense to everyone? Now it means that I can create any number of objects, and when I create a number of any object, when I say user3 equal to new user, and I say Christina, and I say, for example, Lee, something like that. Now I have now three of them. So if I just write that, now you see that now I have got three objects. Now you're looking at how easy it has become to create object of a object now. Do you realize that, Arshdeep, that now it's so easy to create an object? Now I have got a function that I just take, and I have got all those predefined values, and I just call that function. I create object by using user1 is equal to new, and I get a complete brand new user. And now you might be thinking that, okay, Bob's age is different. So why you are okay? I'll say, okay, come over here, no problems. You can access the Bob's age. How can I access Bob's age? User2. Bob is user2 for me, right? So user2 dot age equal to 22. You know what I mean? You say that, okay, Christina has age maybe 18. So you say user3 dot age equal to, oh, sorry, it should be a number, not string. I'm just giving it. But anyhow, it should work. But anyhow, you should give a number. So now, if I run my objects now, you know that now you see that age of Bob William has become 22 and age of Christina has become 18. Does that make sense to everyone? So it means now it has become so easy for me to create objects, and now I can create any number of objects by using this one, and I can set anything that I want to keep for that particular thing. So for example, I want to say that hobbies of Bob are different. So I'll come over here. Bob's object is user2. I'll say user2 dot, for example, let's talk about preferences. Preference dot color. So Bob likes blue color, not the red color. So I'll say just go and set that to, oh, okay, not colon, it will be equal to here. So go and set it to equal to blue. You know what I mean? Inverted commas blue, sorry. You know what I mean? And you say, for example, that user2 dot hobbies, right? Or maybe hobby of one, hobby of the first value is different. So I'll say hobby of 0 is equal to walking, something like that. You know how powerful we have become? We can create an object and then we can just, change the values. And if I run that one, you will see that the user to Bob William has blue color as the choice, right? And also I have changed his habit. So from the first habit from A to walking. So it's the walking is coming up over here, but not for the rest of them. Why? Because this one object is occupying one memory location, and I'm talking about one memory location and one values. Is that clear to everyone? Okay, Kirandeep says yes. Pratham, thank you. I would like to have feedback from others as well. Those who have not said anything at all today, maybe. We have 9 to 11 like odd people over here. But I've got response from only from Kirandeep and Pratham. Can I have response from everyone? Yeah, I'm just waiting for the response from the some guys. I don't know if everyone has gone away, other than you two guys, Kirandeep and Pratham. Okay, Sanam, thank you very much. Anyone else? No one is there. Hello. That's quite interesting. Okay, anyhow. So now see here that we have got this one, and I can create object. So remember always that the capital letter represents the constructor, and constructor in JavaScript, what we do is this, we use constructor to create new objects, Now you might understand that, okay, I can do one more thing. Maybe I say that, okay, pass another variable, that value should be age, and I can set up this dot age is equal to age. You know what I mean? So this dot age is equal to age. Now, would you like to tell me if you look at these three objects or my this code, what will be the value of age for different objects? Let's see over here. So you see, let me show you very interesting thing. So let's talk about that. So you see, for the first object, not this one. Okay, where is that? Okay, just let me save that one and let me run that again. You see here, the first user, if you see the first user, which is Alan Smith, what is the age coming out of this one? Sanam, can you tell me why it is undefined age over here for Alan? Looking at my code, why the Alan's age is undefined? Can you tell me? Let me know. Or by the way, Pratham, you can answer me in private chat. You can just answer me why this age is coming as undefined for Alan. And then it is coming 18 for Christina, and it is coming 22 for Bob Williams. But for Alan, it is coming out as undefined. Can you tell me why it is coming as undefined for Alan? Looking at my code. That's wonderful. Kirandeep, that's wonderful. Right answer. Anyone else? Kirandeep has answered me privately, like, in the private chat. And Kirandeep, that's wonderful. That's right answer. Anyone else? Pratham, would you like to say me something in the private chat, maybe? Pratham, my question is that now I have introduced another parameter in my constructor, and I'm setting this dot age is equal to age. So my question is, when I look at this my code, because now I'm setting up this dot age is equal to age. So look at my code. When I'm running this code, the first object, which is Alan Smith's object shows me the age as undefined. The question is why it is showing undefined, and why it is showing 22 for Bob Williams, and why it is showing 3 for Christina Lee. So can you reply in private why I am getting an undefined for the first one, For Alan Smith, I'm getting an undefined age. But it has to be a defined age. Why it is undefined? Yes, I'm looking for some other answers as well. If you don't know the answer, you can write down, I don't know, IDK. IDK is a very right answer. Okay, Pratham, that's right. So now the issue is, you're right. Now the issue is that object can be created by using three values, and I have not passed age value for all three, but I have set up the age over here. You see, I have changed the age, change of Bob Williams, and I have changed the age of Christina Lee. Now, if I come over here and if I just do one thing, and let's make it 25. Now, what will be my output now? Can anyone guess what will be my output now? That now my first object will have an age of what? 25. Why? Because I have passed this age, and this age is received over here, and it is set up in the age. And now here I have not sent any date age. It means that age was null, or it was undefined. But then I say user2.age is equal to 22, so user2 gets the age of 22. User3.age is equal to 18, so user3 Christina gets the age of 18. Pratham, does it make sense? You are right. Your answer was almost correct. But you understand what I'm saying? So object can have any number of parameters. Now I want you to focus on something. Now let's just remove all these things, and let's suppose that I am creating all objects with the ages. Right now, still my output will be same, because now I have passed three values, and three values are settled. Rest of the all values are remaining in the same way as they are before. Now look at here. I want you to focus on something. This login function and logout function. If you look at both these functions, see here, these two functions, whenever I create an object, they are always embedded with every object, and regardless of I use it or not, the code will be present in every object's line. Pratham, is that making sense? Because if I don't use this function, I cannot use it. It's not necessary that I'll always be using login function. I might not use it anytime. I might not use logout function anytime. I can use it, but if I don't use it, it's typically always there in every object. And think about a situation where I have maybe 1000 objects. So user 1000 equal to new user, and let's take name from you, Pratham, right? Pratham, and I don't remember your last name, so I'll just leave ABC, and let's write a random age. So I have thousands of users. There are there are lots of 9,900 9,900 users or something, 999 users before that. So you see, when I'm creating an object, needlessly these two functions are always occupied in that one, and even if I use it or not use it, they will always be there. Okay, no problem, brother. I know. I just wrote a random number. Right. So see here. So these two functions are always there in that one. So what JavaScript says, listen about this. This is very important concept. JavaScript says, rather than placing these functions in the constructor, do one thing. There is something called the prototype of the constructor. I'll just write it over here. So you understand the purpose, why I'm saying? I'll just removing all the users for the time being, and I'll just show you. There is something called the prototype of the function. What is the prototype? Prototype, as its name suggests, it's a prototype which, when you are creating object, the object takes all the values from that prototype. And I'll show you that prototype in a very real sense. You will really enjoy that. But first of all, just listen. And what is that prototype? Let me show you a very real demonstration of the prototype. You will enjoy that good demonstration. See here, I'm inside the console. Now, how do you recognize? I'm talking about a question from today's class. How do you recognize if a function is a normal function or a constructor function. Kirandeep, how do we recognize that a function is a constructor function or a normal function? Capital letter beginning. That's wonderful. Capital letter beginning. And Pratham, you understand that? I've discussed that already. Now I want to show you something, that this constructor is nothing new that we have seen. You already have seen this constructor a lot of time. How come? Let my array equal to new array. You know this line of syntax? I have created an array, and you can create an array by using new. And I think I used that in one of the class, and I told you that you can create your arrays like that. Okay, this is for array. Let my string equal to new string hello world. You know that this can be a proper string being created. Everyone understand that? Now, if I write my array dot, so there are so many properties that open up over here. Do you see that, these properties? Now, have I defined this length? No, this length I have not defined, but this is defined somewhere else. And where is defined? I'll tell you. So I can use my dot length, which was not there. I just created an array, and now I can use that dot length property, which is not something that I have defined. So where that is defined, I'll show you. That is very interesting. If I write my array, so you see that my array is appearing over here. If you open this drop down, you will see that, okay, at 0 location there is 1, 1 location there is 2, and 2 location there is 3. Everyone understand that? Length is 3. Length is looks like this function is here. But do you see something written over here? What is that? Prototype. If you open it, there are lots of functions that are residing in that prototype, which do not directly become part of a string, but they are available to use, and I can always use those functions. Arshdeep, is that making sense to you? The prototype over here. When I create an array by using new array, I get a prototype, something from where this array has been created. And if I want to use any of the function over there, I can go and just use slice, shift, reverse, reduce, right, reduce, and you use these string functions in your assignment as well. So these functions are all defined in the prototype of that. Now, same ways with this my string. If I just write my string, you see my string hello world. And if I open it, there are a few things that are represented over here. But do you see that prototype is also over here? Arshdeep, are you getting that? Prototype, if I open that, okay, it has so many prototypes. It has so many functions: font size, font length, replace all, replace. These are all the functions that I have not created. These are not the functions which create with every string, but these are the functions that are being always kept inside the, can you complete my sentence? Inside the prototype of the function. Arshdeep says, I got it. Now, same ways, JavaScript says that whenever you have something which is sometimes called, which is sometimes not called, don't define it in the constructor function. Rather, I will just make a comment. I am making all the comment rather than define them in the prototype. Now listen, how to access the prototype. First of all, the name of the constructor. What is the name of the constructor? User dot prototype dot, you know what I mean, login is equal to function. How many of you made sense of this? Arshdeep, you understand that? You said got it for the previous topic, but how about this one? You understand? Put this login function in the prototype of this user, not in the user. Can you tell me why? Or I'll ask this question later on. Pratham, be ready for this question, because looks like you 2-3 guys are only replying. So you will be just always replying. Logout equal to function. And I say this dot logged in equal to false. Now, do you remember why? What was the motivation of defining them in prototype, not in the body? So that whenever I create an object, they should not automatically become the part of my object's body, objects data. You remember the purpose? So if I have defined this in the prototype, what happens is then when I create my object, and if I want to print this object, now see here what will happen. What is different in this code? The object that I have created, it's a bit different from what we were looking at it before. It's a bit different. What is the difference over here between this object and the previous one? Yeah. It's quite surprising that looks like those 2 or 3 guys who are here, even they are not making or trying to understand everything. Should I really not care about if you are understanding or not? Oh, I was not audible. When, Kiran? When I was not audible? And by the way, Kirandeep, you have got a mic. If I'm not audible, if something is wrong, can you unmute yourself and say something? I'm asking that you guys have a mic. If you ever feel that you are not listening to me, can you unmute yourself and tell me that you are not audible? How would I know that I'm not audible? Just So Pratham, yes, I was asking a question that now what is the difference between this object? Now you see that now the functions definitions is not inside that. And rather this function definition has gone in the prototype. I can use this function definition if I want. I can always use that. So if I say user1.login, you know what does that mean? That this user object will go to its prototype where I have defined this function, and it just goes and reads the login function from there and just comes back. And now I'm not I'm sorry, I'll not be asking any more questions. I'll just keep on completing my topics. If you have any questions, you can just stop me. Otherwise, I'll just keep on going like a train, right? I'll never stop now. So if you define a function in a prototype, what happens is that when you create the object of that class, you never get the copy of that function inside the body of that one. Rather, that becomes the part of the prototype. And the benefit of that is that it does not become the part of object, but when you basically, if you want to use them, you can use them because they are in the prototype. In the same way as I was showing you that when we create this one, even if I do not use this string functions which are in prototype. So, there is a function, for example, let's talk about a replace function. Replace function, even if I use it or don't use it, if I don't use it, it's in the prototype. It's not part of my string. So basically what happens is that your code, it does not become the part of your string, part of your object. Rather, it remains outside of that one, but in the prototype. If you need them, you will call them. If you don't need them, you won't call them. So if I just now console.talk user1, I will see the difference. You see that first of all, it is showing me false, logged in false, and the second time it is showing me logged in true. And now again, if I just call a function, because there is a function in the prototype user.logout. So I'll call that function and I'll say console.log and I'll say user1. So it means that now you'll see that, okay, it will again go back to the false. You see, first it is false, then it is true, and then it is false. Right? So this is basically called, when you put your functions or anything inside the prototype, it is called basically in JavaScript, it is called prototypal inheritance. Prototypal inheritance. Prototypal inheritance is one when we just take out our values, our objects, and we just put them into the prototype of that one. And now they will not become the part of any object's body. I can create thousands of objects and no object will contain directly this method function definition. Rather, this definition will be available for every object, but it will not be included as the part of the code. So again, it means technically speaking, this code is away. This code has been taken away from this part. So now I have no code over there inside the curly braces. And now this is the prototype function that is over there. And it's not only the functions that we can define prototypes in prototype, not of the construct of the function. I'm talking about prototype of the constructor. So it's not only that we can define functions, we can define a variable as well. So I can say user dot prototype dot level. equal to 10, for example, and I take away this level variable from here. So now this level variable will also not be there in the constructor. So you see here, if I run that, you will see that now the level is also not there. Why? Because the level has gone in that one. Now, if I want to access that level over here, I can just, for the last one, I can call it. So I say, what is the level of it? What will be my answer? I hope you know that. My answer will be 10, because the level is technically set to 10 for every object. It is technically set to 10 for every object. Why? Because it's in prototype. So if it is in prototype, it will be common, or it will be same for every object. It won't be different for any of the other objects. Right? So this is how you create a prototype. I'll give one more example over here just to make you understand, and hopefully you have understood this object topic, but I will just give you one more example. So for example, I am creating a constructor function, and I'm calling it person, and it will accept name and age as parameters. Right? So I'll say this dot name equal to name, and this dot age equal to age. So I've just two values. I'm just passing them, and I'll tell you that how can you just basically maybe make other functions and add those values. So I'm creating another function here, and I'm calling it add person, and I say it will also accept age and name and age. And what it will do is that it will create variable p equal to new person name comma age. Pass this name and age from this function to this one. It will be passed. And now let's create an array in the beginning. And I say var people equal to. So I want to collect how many objects have been created. So var people is equal to this one. So I say that whenever a new object is created, people dot push. You remember the push method? I push this p into that one. Okay, that's wonderful. Now, if you see here, I want to create this object, for example. So I'll rather call this method over here. So I'll come over here and I say add person and pass on, for example, last name I see is Arshdeep, for example. If I say Arshdeep, and again, please forgive me if I'm writing the wrong age. So I'm just randomly taking a number. So if I call this function, or if I call this function like this, and now what is the other name? It's Manjeet, for example. Right, and again, please forgive me if the age is not right. I'm just taking random numbers. So if I run this one, you see what will happen. Okay, nothing is happening. Why? Because we have just added them. And if I want to see that, okay, people is populated or not, can I console that? Console.log, and I'll say people. Just type people. How many people have been created? Like objects have been created or not? So see that I have got two persons created. One is named Arshdeep 20, and then one is named Manjeet and 20. Is that making sense? Right. So that's basically how we create an object. So I'm just calling a function add person that does what? That creates a new function by having these two parameters. These two parameters are passed to that, and then this constructor function is called. This construction function sets up some variables, and after setting up, now I'll just try to introduce that prototype over here. So I'll come over here and I'll say person dot prototype dot, for example, I'm creating a function speak, right? Sorry, speak equal to function. So every human being, every person speaks. So I'm creating a function. So I'll say this dot name. So I'll just maybe calling this function, and I'm saying that it will return this dot name. Let's take a backticks. This sorry. Now if I want to print a variable, this dot name speaks English, right? And let's create one more function in prototype. person dot prototype dot walks, right? Walk. I'm creating a walk function. So return backticks, and I'll say this dot name is dollar this dot age years old and walks 1 mile every day. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to make a scenario over here. So these are the two functions that will just do whatever object if you want to call them, you can call them. Otherwise, they won't become the part of the. You see that they are not the part. Like, let me just check that again. If I run this again, you will see that object is still the same. But can you tell me? Can I call this, for example, if I talk about this from any of the object that we have just created, for example, and if I want to just add that one particularly. So if I just, for example, let's talk about this, and what I'm doing is that, again, I'll just leave this code. You can later on see that, but I'm just right now creating another simple object for that one. So I say, for example, let p1 equal to new person, and I'm passing those two values. So Alan and comma Smith, right? So I'm passing these two functions, Alan and Smith. Now, if you see that I have called this function, and now if I just print p1, if I print this p1, you will see that what happens. If I print this p1 only, you will see that I have person1, of course, the object. Now, there is no method over here, no function over here. But if I come over here, if I call this function p1, and rather I'll have to, because I'm returning over there, console.log. If I say p1 dot speak, right? So this is a function that is coming from the prototype. So p1 dot speak. So I want to check p1 dot speak. If I just run that one and run this code, you see person name Alan and age Smith. Alan speaks English. You understand what's going on? It calls this function. And same way, if I call this function with walk, dot walk, so you'll see that, okay, now it will just print the age as well, and then it will show Alan speaks English, and Alan is Smith years old. Why? Because I have just done the wrong thing. It was supposed to get age. I was providing it the name. So for example, let's say 19. So let's run that. So you see that Alan is 19 years old and walks 1 mile every day. Is that good with everyone? So now this is basically this is called prototypal inheritance, where we have just taken that out of this one, and now these functions are out of that, out of that part. Okay, so let's take a quick break. 5 minutes, I'll take a break, and then after the break, I'll give you some more examples, and I will ask you to just write some code with that one. It would be a practice for today, and I'll give you a scenario, and you will create that constructor, and you will just try to come up with a solution. Let's take a 5 minutes break. It's 6:12 in my clock. I'll be back at 6:17 to 6:18. So enjoy your break, and I'll be back shortly. This concept is quite similar to what you are studying as a class in your object-oriented programming language, And by the way, the JavaScript also allows us now to use class keyword. Before that, like before the class keyword, JavaScript has this tradition of using constructor functions. Oh, sorry. Yes, I've not shared my screen. So now are you able to see that, Pratham? Okay. So I'm telling you that even now JavaScript also has this class syntax and everything with it. And previously the class, it was not something that was the part of that. Now we have that class syntax as well. And I would, I might be, after we will be doing, after we'll be done with the DOM programming, which will be somewhere in our maybe 11th week or something. I would, or maybe the 7th week or something. After HTML, I'll cover up with the DOM maybe. So then you will see that, okay, we can interact with our HTML and the JavaScript. And there I might give you a class for that, that how would you just, use this, this class keyword, or, the class keyword in ES6 and ES5. The problem is that the class keyword, the class that we talk about is something that comes from that ES6 or ES5. As I told you, it's ECMAScript 5 or ECMAScript 6 that is providing us this solution of that one. Now, so let's start practicing this concept. As I told you, you know about the classes over there. So if generally we come across lots of time. So I would like you to just, of all of you, that you just create a function student, right? A function student, and try to come up with a syntax of a function of a student that might be a constructor for us, and through which I can create any number of any number of students, and the students will get, for example, they have certain features, for example, the first name and the last name, and they have maybe ID number, and they have something. So you come up with a student constructor that can be used to create any number of students that I want. Do you know what I mean? So you might have that student constructor, you have student class worked in your object-oriented programming maybe. So I would like to have one example from you of student constructor that later on I can use. You define this student constructor some way or other, and what I'll do is that I will be using your your student constructor to create, for example, student one, and I will just create equal to new student. And again, I will just look at the what type of constructor you have defined, what are the parameters or what are the values that you have defined, and I would be creating objects by using them. So think about your, use your imagination, and if you have an example already from your object-oriented class, just use them and create a function that shows this this student environment for the rest of them. Are you getting like my thing, Pratham? That you have to create a student constructor where you imagine what can come in the student, what can be the functions or methods associated with the student, and try to bring those methods, trying to use those methods in as a as a prototype method rather than defining them inside the constructor method. So I'll be just now waiting for your your values, your constructor that I will be used to create a student from. So you do with that, and then you can share it on the chat maybe, or I will just I will take that and I will just use that to create student objects. So I'll be now waiting for your solutions, and so come up with a solution, and then we'll share and we'll discuss that solution, what can be improved in that one. So I need you to just define some student constructors and come up with that solution.